I get asked the question a lot, how do you get bucks on camera in areas that you can't bait? Here in Ohio, you can run corn and minerals, so it's a great way to get inventory of the bucks in the area. But what I've found is even better than that, and something that you can do on private land, you can do it in public land, you can do it in states that you're not allowed to bait, is to run mock scrapes. So we're out here today. I've yet to have any great bucks on camera. So what we're gonna do is put in a couple of mock scrapes on the edges of this property. Maybe there's some good bucks on the neighbors and we can draw them onto our property, get pictures of them, start building that hit list for fall. The other thing that mock scrapes are really good for is to actually enhance a hunting spot. It can take a good spot and make a great spot and concentrate the buck activity to hit that one central location. So what I'm gonna do today is talk about what a scrape actually is and then walk you through my step-by-step process of how I build my mock scrapes, and that seem to be really, really effective all year round. So to talk about what a scrape actually is, scrapes are ways that deer socialize. Deer are way more social than hunters realize, and scrapes are a signpost to be able to communicate to all the other deer in the area. So when people think about a scrape, they're thinking about the pawing of the ground. They see a hood-sized scrape on the ground, that's a great sign. But what is the most important thing about the scrape is the licking branch. And the licking branch is where the deer rub their preorbital gland and their salivary glands, and they leave a lot of information on that licking branch to be able to communicate to the other deer. So a mock scrape is exactly what it sounds like. We are creating and initiating a scrape that hopefully the deer will take over. And what I found that if you build it in the right location and you build it correctly, the deer are gonna take that thing over in no time. You're gonna be getting all sorts of deer pictures, not just buck pictures, but does and fawns alike. And then it's gonna enhance your hunting opportunities in that area as well. So to walk through the equipment you need to actually build a good mock scrape, I'll start off by saying you really don't need anything. A lot of times you can build a mock scrape if it's in the right location with a hanging branch. You can scrape out the ground underneath, pee in it if you want, and a lot of times the deer will take that over. But what I've found is you can do some other things to make it even more effective, make it even more irresistible to the deer. We'll jump into that right now. So everything right here is my scrape making kit. I have rubber gloves, and I'll wear those when I'm actually handling a branch or a vine to avoid as much human scent as possible. I have some clippers, and I'll show you what I use those for in a minute. I have a pack of zip ties, and again, we'll walk through what those are for. And the last thing that I have is a rake, and the rake is just to scrape the ground, expose as much earth as possible, and make it as visually appealing as we can. The last thing in my scrape kit is some type of scent. And again, to my earlier point, you don't need any type of scent to make this work, but I'm actually gonna be running a test. I'm gonna be comparing the results of all of these different mock scrape scents. So the idea is that you put a little bit of scent on the branch, it gets the deer using that licking branch, and once they start using it, it's game over. They're gonna start leaving their gland scent all over it, and there's no need to add any additional scent. If you wanna see the full video of my mock scrape scent test, that video is gonna be put out later into the fall when I have time to actually run this test to completion. So make sure you subscribe to make sure you don't miss that. So the first step and the most critical step in this entire process is making sure you build it in the right location. The better location, the less it matters about the rest of the steps, but you want to pick a high traffic area, a trail intersection, the edge of a food source, close to bedding areas, staging areas, somewhere where deer are naturally already traveling through, and then all you have to do is build it and they will come. And once you find a location, what you want to do is find a tree that you can either hang a branch, or what I like to do is a grapevine. You want to find a branch that you can hang it off of, and that's what the zip ties are for, to be able to secure a branch or a vine from somewhere else, hang it down to the perfect height. But here we have this small kill plot. I just sprayed it. We're gonna have to come back, spray it again, and we'll plant it. And it's just this little bit of a funnel, and it butts right up to the bedding areas. So we'll be able to sneak in here on a just off wind, and hopefully the bucks will come from the bedding into this little kill plot, hit this scrape, and they'll be perfectly broadside for a 15 or 20 yard shot. So that's step one, just making sure you have the right location. All right, so the next step is to find a grapevine. That's what I like to run my mock scrapes with. And you wanna find one that's about 3/4 to an inch to an inch. This one's just about perfect. And you can see right here how it actually curves just a little bit. That is kind of nice because when you attach it to a horizontal branch, it hangs straight down. You can just do a perfectly straight vine as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and clip this. That's what the clippers are for. And I have my gloves on to make sure I'm leaving as little scent as possible. And we're gonna cut this about 5 or so feet. And and then we're gonna go back to our target location and hang this thing up on a branch. All right, so we're back over at the tree that we identified earlier. We have this horizontal branch right here. I'm 6'5", so I have the luxury of picking some of these a little bit higher branches. When we attach this with zip ties, which we'll do, you can see this is right about waist level, and I found that that is a really good height for your scrapes because even the shorter deer, the does, the fawns, they can all hit it, and I don't think it inhibits the bucks from using it, even though it's just a little bit lower. One other thing to consider when hanging your branch or your vine is that as these leaves drop on the tree branch above it, that branch is naturally gonna lift up just a little bit because there's less weight. The weight of the leaves is not on there. So as those leaves drop, this actually might raise just a little bit. This branch, I think, is not gonna move much, but that's just one thing to consider. If you have it on a branch that's loaded down with leaves, when all those leaves fall down, it might get too high for the deer. So you wanna make sure you're not starting off too high because when that happens, it'll be out of range. All right, so we've got our vine secured. Again, you can use a grapevine. You could also use a different tree branch. If you are using an actual tree branch, I like to use oaks or other types of trees that are gonna hold their leaves for longer than others. We're just gonna hang this single vine. I think this is gonna do really well. We're gonna put our Black Widow branch butter on here, and I'm currently testing a lot of different mock scrape scents, so we're gonna compare them all against each other. But I'm gonna dab a little bit of this on there, and then we'll keep rolling here. Again, I got gloves on just to minimize the amount of human scent that I am leaving. That's pretty potent. I can smell it all the way from here. Just dab that on there. Whew. So our licking branch is done now. The next step is to actually work the ground. Ideally, you want as flat of an area as possible. And we brought with us a little metal rake, and that's really gonna help us expose a lot of that earth. So I'm gonna go through, try to make like a car hood size scrape, and in my opinion, bigger the better. I'll also do in certain locations make multiple mock scrapes off of the same tree, but in this case we're just gonna make one big one. You can also use a climbing stick. If you happen to have one with you, you can use a stick, you can use your boots, but I think a lot of people overlook this step, which is why I have this little rake. And you can take this anywhere. It'll fit on the back of your backpack, super lightweight, very portable. But here we go. Get all these grasses out of the way. We want this area as clear as possible. So if there's sticks or debris, we want as much of that cleared out as possible. I think that's pretty irresistible. If you're a deer walking by that, I think you're gonna have to check that out. All right, so we got our scrape all finished here. Last thing we're gonna do is hang one of these Edge 2s from Moultrie Mobile. We got a tree picked out about 15 feet away, and we're gonna be able to monitor this mock scrape. And then when we do come in and plant this food plot, we'll be able to monitor that as well. But my hope is to start drawing in some of these bucks that are in their summer ranges so I can start to build some type of idea of what bucks are in the area. Because as of right now, I have no clue what bucks made it through the fall, what bucks are still hanging around. So I'm hunting blind right now. So that's why we build these mock scrapes, that's why we run the cameras. But we're gonna get this thing up and we'll be good to go. All right, so the last and final step, which in my opinion is optional, is to actually pee in the scrape. That's a big question I get is, do you need to pee in the scrape? I will if I have to pee, which we're gonna try. I don't really have to pee too bad, but we're gonna do it and then we're gonna get out of here. I don't have to pee. I didn't wanna scare away the bucks anyways. All that testosterone will get them running early, and we don't want that to happen in the summertime. We're all set here now. This is a great mock scrape. I'm really proud of this, and what's gonna happen is this wind is gonna blow the smell of this scrape right into this buck's bedding, and then we're gonna come in, ambush with a just off wind, and be able to slip an arrow in him, hopefully. If you follow the steps that I laid out in this video, you're gonna have successful mock scrapes that the deer are gonna take over, and once you build one, you might never have to touch it again. They might use it every single year after that once you put one in place, but it's a great way to get buck inventory. It's a great way to increase your odds of having a buck within bow range. If you guys have tips of your own for mock scrapes or scents you recommend, drop those down below in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to follow along on all of my hunts this fall. We're gonna be getting started real soon here, but thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.